Welcome everybody. A young teenage girl trying to say to her diary that, listen, my mom treats me like a child, to very quickly, in less than a couple of years, her telling that I'm barely alive and trying to tell you about the almost brutality of what the Nazi government has done. The book, The Diary of Young Girl Anne Frank, travels through time, travels through ages, and travels through the whole idea of coming of age and growing up. I think the beauty of this diary is when she starts, and very earlier in the book, she writes a line that touches my heart a lot. Paper is more patient than man, Anne Frank says. Somewhere she finds her solace in the paper, somewhere she doesn't treat that diary as a piece of paper she's trying to let her feelings in, but she does give that diary a person. And she makes it a person and she makes it her best friend to tell her feelings to. That something was so much meaningful for me. Because I think somewhere we all have so much in our heart that we somehow are unable to express, and we don't have enough opportunities or avenues to tell to another person. Because I think when interpersonal relationships are, somewhere you expect something from the other person to react a certain way. Writing into this diary, definitely she's given us an insight to the brutality and what it was really like to live at a certain time when Nazis were at their full force trying to decimate every Jew in the world. Now, this story is about a young girl who started out writing her diary on her 13th birthday, very excited and very happy and talking about the growing up and adolescence and everything. And from there, it comes to a point where her and her family friends have to go into hiding in order to escape from the Nazi government. When they go into the hiding is when the exciting part begins. Initially, I think for the first 50, 60, even to I think the first 80 pages also, somewhere the idea of the book trying to capture what the Second World War scenario was like for the Jews, it wasn't really tangible. I think what she really was writing to that book, it was pretty much a girl who is in her teenage trying to discover her hormonal changes, her environment, and it was that idea of growing up, and it was that idea of being this person. But I think very, very soon after a point, it reaches a point where she is also growing up too soon. The innocence of that little girl trying to say that, hey, you know what, there's this boy in my house and all of that. And from trying to say that my mother and my sister are so and so and they're like this. I don't understand why are the elder generation always fighting with each other on silly pricky things. From a girl trying to say all of this, she ends up saying something so profound that just stuck with me. She says, in I think the later part of the book somewhere, that one should never judge another person without spending a whole jolly time with them. And she also says so much about how she has that anxiety about not knowing whether she will be alive or whether she will be killed away by the Jews. And I think by the later part, when the Dutch sort of education minister in exile tries to tell everybody that all your diaries and everything that you're writing in letters and everything that are testimonial to how nasty the Nazi government has been to the Jews, trying to pick them from places, put them into these concentration camps and maybe just murder them. You know what Holocaust represents? Holocaust represents something that is as scary as mass murder, or maybe even mass murder is almost a small connotation to the grievance and the scary nature of Holocaust. All of this happened, and when she realized that Dutch government could publish a book, you could see that the details in her book regarding how the Nazi was structured, how scared they was, and how everybody in the street sort of went into an exile and nobody was going to each other's houses. She started describing all of them a lot more. And that also there's this side to her where she's like, a little excited that, you know what, maybe in the future this book could be published and her dream of becoming a writer could be, true. And although this book is a real book today and it's been published by her father, but sadly the girl could not see it. After the whole, the Second World War and all of that time, she was put into a Nazi concentration camp with her entire family, and her father is the only person who's come out alive of it, and she eventually died of typhus at a menial age of 15, 16 years. I think that itself is inspiring. I think this book, although it travels through a journey of a couple of years, right, from 13 to 15, of a young girl celebrating her life, her innocence, and that growing up symptoms, and that not liking and liking your dreams, your aspiration, what you like, what you don't like, and all of that, right? But at the same time, because of the circumstances they were in, it also gives you so much insight, almost like a child growing up overnight and also being 10 years more mature than her age. You could see all of that in that very small period of time that this book was captured in. Now, this book was beautiful for me in many ways because I think it reminded me of my time when I was at that age, and that niceness of that age, and the cuteness of that age. This book was also profound and meaningful because the entire sort of how scared the entire family was by just the entry of a carpenter during that time, and that sound of hammer that carpenter was trying to do something for the wall or something just made them scared so much that they thought, the Nazis were coming and they were taking them away, was itself a glimpse into how scary it must have been, and that anxiety that's surrounded by what Nazis did. They were here in a small compound which were behind a printing company which her father set up and which he was not running anymore, and his employees were secretly running something or the other, and they were in hiding in Amsterdam. I think in that description, she was very detailed. She even gave the sort of house plan and who were in which room and how they spent time and a secret annex and all of that. So it was a very detailed description, very clearly hinting that maybe in future she'd like to publish it. So in that sense, it gives you a real account of what people go through when something in that magnitude happens. This is something that's very, very important, because I think if there is any big disservice you can do to a person is taking their history away from them. And this something is as brutal as, taking a person's identity from them. Every year around the world, when Holocaust museums are set up, Holocaust Day is celebrated, it is reminding yourself that yes, people have gone through so much and value your freedom a lot more. And it's a story about how we all should celebrate the human spirit a lot more and just be nicer to each other and remind ourselves that there's so much brutality that has happened and that's going on. And it's our reminder to not give that pain to another person. Right. Thank you so much.